Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to discuss setting up the mountain bike. Again, before we go on to the numbers, I actually tried a few bikes, rented them essentially. I used to ride 450 and now I'm on a 495 reach bike, and I want to describe the journey on how I approached here. And even with the setup part, I think this sport came from road biking, and we usually start by the saddle height. But I would argue you should start setting up in the attack position. And I'll go over a couple of steps that have helped me, and hopefully you would find this helpful as well. Now, as you're riding, you want your attack position should feel like there is sufficient leverage on your handlebars. If it's too close, then you'd be finding it hard to articulate. If it's too far forward, then you'd be finding it hard to weight the front wheel, especially when the terrain is steep. So you want to be in a comfortable position wherein you're able to steer. At the same time, you don't feel like you're going to tip over. How far is too far forward and how far back is too far back is what we're going to discuss now. So if you draw an imaginary line through the axle, then you want to be in a position, in the attack position, such that you're on top of the axle or slightly behind the axle. If you're too far forward, you'll feel like you're going to tip over and you'll be having OTP. But if you are on top of the axle or slightly behind, you'll always feel like you're pushing the bike. Even if you hit something, as you're on a steep technical terrain, even if you hit something, you'll always feel like you're pushing the bike. So you'll gain a lot of confidence and you will be able to achieve a lot of obstacles. So that, I would say, is the limiting factor on how far forward you can go. Now, how far back? How far back is too far back? You can say, well, I'm going to put a really short stem. In my case, I actually have a 33 mm stem. You can say I put a really short stem, turn my handlebars backwards, so I'm always behind the wheel, right? But what that does is two things. First, you should have enough reach for that to happen. And second, even if you have a long reach, if you start bringing this handlebar behind the axis of the steering, if you start to bring the handlebar behind the axis of the steering, then it'll become very twitchy. You can try that. So the limiting factor to me, even if the frame allows, is do not bring the handlebars behind your steer tube. So that, I would say, is how far back you want to rotate the handlebars, or how short of a stem you want to go. So that's your position 1, that's your position 2, and this room in between will be your sweet spot, and you can try based on your hands, your torso, everything, where your ideal position is. Now, once you set this up, there's also the height of the handlebar, the height of the cockpit, that plays a big role in this. Now, obviously, as you go higher, your reach becomes shorter. As you go lower, your reach becomes forward. So where do you want to set this up, right? Now, if you reach this point, you obviously came up to a certain baseline for the bar height or the stem height and the bar angle, sweep, everything. Okay, so at this point we want to fine tune it. To fine tune your bars, at least in my scenario, if you can set it up such that it's not high enough wherein you're struggling as you're going uphill, right? If you set it up really high, you might be fine on the downhills, but you'll be struggling to weight on the uphill. At the same time, if it's too low, you might be fine pedaling up a fire road, but as soon as you stand up, you won't have any leverage, right? Like, think of holding the bars too low and trying to move them. Whereas if you put them here, you have enough leverage on your arms. So somewhere in between there is where your ideal position is. Again, in my case, this might change from bike to bike. If you can set it up such that you feel the force a little bit on the back of the bar and then a little bit on the top of the bar. In other words, as you're riding, you're applying the force on the bar kind of in the direction of the articulation of the fork, right? As it's going, because you do have an angle, right? Your head tube angle. As long as it's going in that articulated angle, that's where the sweet spot is. I feel like I can work the suspension really well at that position, as well as sufficiently weight the front when I'm on an uphill, as well as not feel like I'm on top of the bar or I go OTP. So that's the bar height you want to achieve. But that is essentially what I want to share today. So start setting up your bike standing up, rent a few bikes, and then you'll come up with the numbers that suit for you. In my case, my bike reach is 495, and I'm really liking the feeling that I have enough leverage. My C-tube angle is 78 degrees. That puts me in a position when I'm sitting, I don't feel like the bike is stretched out. In comparison, I was riding a 450 reach with 73 degree angle, C-tube angle. So that's quite a difference from what I was riding. But I think these are my ideal numbers. Maybe yours will be slightly different. I'm 5'9". So check out a few bikes. Hope this method helps you and keep riding. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe.